Joke a minute ago about sort of an uplifting song or a down song, but actually, you write a poem, you read a poem about someone you've lost. That's not downbeat. That's not downbeat. It's making something new of the old pain, right? So, woo, look at that, and there's another old pain there. Now the pages will be all out of order, so I'll be able to make it fuss in a while and work that for comic effect. I'd like to read a poem about an old friend of mine. His name is Sheldon Zipner. He was a really fine Canadian poet, but he didn't start writing until he was almost 70. He wrote a little bit before, and then later on. He started off as a gag writer in New York. And he did something solemn then. He became a university professor and he became an expert on Shakespeare. When he retired, he started writing these poems. He was terribly witty. His health was appalling, but he'd say the most devastating things, like, you know, he gets out of hospital after a rough operation and he says brightly, "Better a semicolon than a full stop." Did you say that, Sheldon? Oh my heavens. And for the last part of his life and all the time that I knew him, I only knew him about 10 years, his health was really very poor. His heart was giving out, all sorts of parts of his body were giving out, but he willed to live and he willed to work. And so my final visit to him in the company of another elderly Canadian writer named Kildare Dobbs, and he was quite firm and still himself. And this is about that. It's called Heroic Measures. My fabled New Yorker, you saw me off with advice on marriage. Keep it flying. And with mischief, turn to an older friend. I go to prepare a place for you. That was after surgery, in the step-down unit. Your small body nested among the wires, a screen to your left counting heartbeats, and on your forehead a cloth to cool you. None of this was really survivable. But I suppose that you were not killable, and that you and death would keep waiting for the blink. I bought a bottle of wine while you were dying. It was somewhere on the Avenue of the Americas. That's on Manhattan. It was somewhere on the Avenue of the Americas. And from my change, 5 folded ones fell out of my pocket into the wind. And in the dark, 5 figures, one on a bicycle, chased them down and laid them in my hand. So much, I thought, for the myth of the nasty New Yorker. But what is sentiment in Manhattan? Far from your bed and bones, I heard you. Still yourself, touching this milk of kindness with your tongue. Repeat the experiment. This time, use 20s. It was just like that. Now we'll find out what terrible things have happened to my pages. Let's grab a couple here and hope for the best. Yeah, these look good. We'll do with these. My elderly mother is a delight. She's a very funny, powerfully minded person. Even as she gets older, her memory is basically shot. But she still has conversational skills, and she's still very good. Like my daughter brought her young fiancé to see him, and he says to her very meekly, "Mrs. Greene, you have a lovely family." She looks at him and says, "But you don't know them." That's my ma. But she was a really good painter, and of course she doesn't paint anymore. And I think that she was only really happy when she painted. This poem is called Oils, as in oil paints. Oils. And I guess you'd need to have an awareness of old soap operas. The Edge of Night was a soap opera that was on, it was stopped in the 70s, full of shooting and strangling and stuff like that. And of course, Coronation Street is still on. Black and white and notionally portable, a TV fills up half the kitchen table with The Edge of Night or Coronation Street. As my mother, among copies of Vogue and Chatelaine and the Daily News, lays oils on the rough side of masonite. The paintbrushes seem to last forever, and the tubes of Winsor and Newton going from year to year, the same ones never empty, manganese blue and phthalo turquoise, cobalt chromite, viridian, terre verte, purple lake, raw umber light, and Payne's gray. Her gardens are decorative and terrible as vined or beasted letters of a manuscript, and undersea, whales and plankton and octopi of equal proportion, as when sleeping shortens the gap between dead and living. Mind, always elsewhere, on Adam Trask and Mike Carr in mobbed-up Monticello, on Ina Sharples and Elsie Tanner, the Barlows, all that marriage and murder at Rover's return. Her automatic touch making intricacies on the board, shapes of memory from which she could never turn away. A tiny brother throttled by whooping cough, her father weeping in the pantry, all the dailiness of death in 1941. 13 then, and never right afterwards, except perhaps in oils. I'll read how much, for some reason, people really like it. I just sort of tossed it off at the time. I had no idea it was any good, but you know, if you like it, go for it. You know, that works for me. I was born in Newfoundland, I think. Yes, I was. By the way, these are so cool. How do you do this? You know, you call yourself a computer geek. You're a computer expert. Hey, it's so cool. You know,
I know you forgot where you come from, so I wouldn't.
What can I say? And my family is still largely there, and my ancestors, of course, were you know, fishermen and farmers and that kind of thing. So this poem is about my great-grandfather, who basically raised my father. Okay, it's called Whaler. Great-grandfather, whaler out of Nantucket, the harder sort who threw the harpoon. Oh, I have to stop. Sorry, I stopped. There's a word in here that's Newfoundland dialect, and I should perhaps pass it on before we go to the poems. Cracky. It's like a little yapping dog that bites your ankles. Okay. Whaler. Great-grandfather, whaler out of Nantucket, the harder sort who threw the harpoon, drew warm blood, made huge death on the open sea. Came home one year to find his land fenced for ecclesiastical uses. Tore it all down, told the priest to go to hell, and would do his own praying after that. Sailed till his knees went stiff with berry on a ship stuck in Antarctic ice. My father worshipped him, remembered his deft hands that could put an arsehole in a cracky with a hammer and a handsaw. The old, by the way, you're supposed to laugh there. That's really quite funny. Yes, I'm known for abusing my audiences. The old man signaled his affections, crafty, hard of hearing, heard the boy's words, even took his daughter's orders when she called him sir. Grew old, jigging cod on the southern shore, then fell from a roof and lingered days to tell his last stories, empty his mouth of good oaths. What I have of him is my father's reverence for his silence, a sense that pain will kill you if you speak of it.